So our data, I tend to talk a little bit more about the job posting data as opposed to the resume data, although I'll come back to that in a moment. But let's start off with the job data here. We are searching job posting data from close to 40,000 different websites. That's everything from small, medium, and large employers, job boards, newspapers, anything out there where you would find job postings, even Craigslist. I would say a little over 50% of the sites that we're searching actually only post 20 or fewer jobs. So again, really looking at not only large employers, but those small and medium as well. And a little over 75% of the sites we're searching are the direct employer sites. There's a lot of cleanup that goes into looking at any of the other sites. Of course, I mentioned here just with the depiction of the duplicate job postings, there's a lot that we have to do to clean up this particular type of data, but we do a pretty good job based on some of the other folks that have reviewed this type of data. And I would say what Burning Glass is really well known for is the detailed or the granular context of the data. So really things like skills, education requirements, basically what you would read within a job posting, and being able to bring that type of information into these conversations. I also just wanted to touch on really what I see as the most common uses of this type of data by our community college partners. Things like, of course, as Linda has mentioned here, aligning the programs with workforce needs and contract training. Also the idea of institutional effectiveness, just making sure that students are skilled for their employment. Economic development, I know a lot of community colleges get involved with what's going on in their community. Any sort of employment services, and I think that really does sort of link back to contract training as well. And of course, any grant writing. So any of you that had worked on TAP grants last year or any of the others, of course, they're requesting data to support those types of grant proposals. One of the projects I thought I would highlight, which is a little bit of a different use of this data, is one that we undertook for the Community College Petrochemical Initiative, which is a group of about, I think it's 9 community colleges, Lone Star being one of them. But this particular analysis was looking at labor market demand for graduates of post-secondary training programs as key talent pipelines for the oil and gas industry in Houston, Texas. So here, the concept of this particular project that we worked on was we were trying to answer some of the following questions. Things like, what's the size of the market for each program? How is the size of the market changing, with what employers should programs look to partner, as well as how can programs align curriculum content to employer needs? Just for, again, just a tad bit of context here on what you're seeing, we are looking at data, job data for the full year of 2013 in the Houston metro area. And these are the list of programs here you see that CCPI identified for us to actually look at. You're looking at the total job postings in Houston overall, and we broke out oil and gas manufacturing and construction as other industries to target. And in a little bit more detail here, we took those programs and actually looked at posting growth. I chose the example of the oil and gas here, of course, Houston being well known for that, as well as posting growth overall in that same location. I know we're going to share these slides at the end, but just to note on the bottom, there's a little growth key so that you can understand what much higher and higher means. Much higher is growth over 50% faster than the Houston average, higher being growth between 10 and 50% faster than the Houston average, and so on and so forth. I also just wanted to drill down into one of the programs to see what type of data we're able to help produce again and inform these conversations between the colleges and the employers that they're working with. We looked at, of course, what the advertised salary was in Houston for these types of jobs, what the percentage growth was, as well as top titles, top employers. And on the next slide, we looked at top skills, as well as education credentials, or I should say preferred education credentials for these types of jobs, and experience levels. And although I think Linda's going to talk a little bit more about this, we also just threw in this example of the welding and welding inspection program to showcase a little bit more of some of these top titles. I think this is just a really interesting one, not only because the growth is much higher in the Houston area, but also because these job titles, as you can see, when you think of welding and welding inspection, you think of everything with a specific job title. You know, this really goes to show that there are so many different variations on the types of jobs that you would see out there. Linda, I'll go ahead and throw that back to you.
All right, thank you. And to mention one more thing on this particular slide, although we all believe that across the country our individual communities are rather unique and that the occupations are unique and that it's so difficult to use this kind of data, the neat thing is we can get the unique data, but then if you look at the companies on this slide, they're national. Many of you on the phone probably have these same companies in your backyard. And wherever their headquarters are located, that's who's writing the job descriptions. So for our students, a stick welder in one community, I would fare to bet that the basic core competencies are exactly the same, whether it's in Houston, Texas, or Erie, Pennsylvania. On the next slide, we're showing you that we do use other data. We want to be sure that we get our state information, and we work very closely with the Texas Workforce Commission and our state demographers and those that gather information, so that we can also look at salary data. And of course, with gainful employment rules changing in 2012, we're also very cognizant of how important it is for all of us as community colleges to be able to be sure we have some idea of what the job is going to pay that we are offering degrees and certificates in. We also have developed, because we are so credible with the fact that we have closed programs, we have expanded programs, we are committed to duplicating programs where there are many needs. It's been easy for us to put together high-level advisory councils for our chancellor. And they come and also validate the data at a very high level, global VPs of HR, of training, of operations, and then we get down into the program advisory councils. This has been real meaningful for us, and we have developed one for energy and manufacturing that's been in existence. They meet quarterly every year for the last 3.5 years. Healthcare, a new advisory council we're developing for CIOs of any industry. And then, of course, those of you that know me, a women's advisory council. And they give us lots of information to help us with our program data. And this slide is just wanted to briefly show you the size and the capacity of the businesses that are joining us because, again, because of our credibility in developing programs that really prepare students for the jobs that they need and that we really are listening to them. We've gone way beyond the DACM. I think I became a DACM facilitator in the 80s. And we changed our processes in about 7 years ago when I moved into this job and decided that it was time for us to create our own process. But the next few slides, I want to highlight some of the successes and some of the benefits that have occurred because we're using LMI and partnering with Burning Glass. Number one is that we've pulled together all areas of Lone Star College system into one unit to build and maintain and renovate and update our workforce programs. It's not, workforce development might be CE at your college. It might be credit academic at another college. You might have a corporate training arm, a contract training arm. But we've brought all that together under one guidance and one council. And of course, we've included student services, marketing, our grants department. And we've tried to bring in every area of the college because although about half of our students are working on academic transfer courses and AA and AS degrees, the other half are working on workforce programs. And it's been working very well for us. The second success story is about our number of graduates. we have seen a steady increase in completers. And we want students to complete. It is hard when the market's good to get every student to complete an associate's degree. Oftentimes they'll get a job after finishing a certificate, and we'd love to keep them there, and we have to kind of argue with employers sometimes when they want to take our students out for a job before they even finish a certificate, but whatever is best for the student. But you can see that we've been on a steady uphill success story. And we have the same kind of story in non-credit, and we're very excited about that. We had 1,100 certificate awardees last year in non-credit. A third success is that conferences are coming to us. We're able to bring national organizations, get involved at a high level, either our chancellor or a member of Chancellor's cabinet or one of us, or faculty or deans, or we have many people now involved in national organizations like Achieving the Dream. And this is a conference we held in December 2013. Those of you that know Dr. Jim Jacobs and his work in workforce education out of Macomb Community College, we are part of that. And on the next slide, I'll show you that we came out of that because of going into the conference, a day-and-a-half working conference. We brought in 16 major employers that probably have plants or operations in your cities together. And at the end of just a day and a half, we came up with them listing for us the top occupations that they're looking for. And we got down into the technical skills, the behavioral skills, the physical attributes, the degree and certificate requirements, and the industry certifications for all of these. And we now are offering all of these at Lone Star. One, I believe, is in process. Actually, I think it's process technician. But the others, we've been working steadily through, and we're able to do that in a very short time frame. A fourth success is that we've had different opportunities to work in collaborative efforts locally in Houston, in the state of Texas, and other national things. Kelly Bailey mentioned the CCPI, the Community College Petrochem Initiative being led by Lee College in Baytown. We're very proud to be part of that. Lee College was awarded funds from ExxonMobil for us to research the different occupations that they're trying to fill. And 3 years later, 2 Friday nights ago at the Houston Rodeo, they announced another $500,000 to our collaborative, and they love the data we've pulled. We're also doing student recruiting and instructor recruiting together. And these are some of the other kinds of organizations that we get to be involved in, things like the Clinton Global Initiative. And next, in 2 weeks, we have students that are completing a program funded by a business in the country of Malta. So we're doing international work as well. Number 5, and something I've been intimately involved in, and I feel like I birthed another child, is this Energy and Manufacturing Institute. It's a 72,000 square foot building with 18 technical labs. We went to our Board of Trustees with information from our Energy and Manufacturing Advisory Council and our LMI data, and proved to them that we needed to really quadruple the number of students we were producing, because the employers weren't getting enough trained people in a workforce pool. Graduating, having a section of 15 students morning, afternoon, evening, Saturday, and maybe have 2 or 3 labs, or maybe offer that even at all 6 campuses wasn't enough. So by using data and showing how many job openings there are in our area, we were able to support that. It grew out of the ground in April, and we are currently offering quite a few different programs there. Number 6 are the behavioral skills. I don't know about you, but every time we bring in employers, they jump up on the table and tell us it's those soft skills, those behavioral skills. I can teach them the technical skills. I need you to cover all the soft skills. Well, we finally have a list, and we have a list of about 30 soft skills. These are some of them. You've all heard them. But because we see it over and over again in the data that we have gathered, and it helped us know that we just start with that list of 30. and it might be adapted a little bit different. Customer service might be different for nursing than it is for a field service technician in oil and gas, but it's still customer service. And number 7 is a big deal to us. At our November 2014 election, our community passed a bond for $485 million. And a major part of that bond is the building of different workforce centers, and we are knee-deep in the middle of designing them and deciding the exact programming of them, and you can see the list in front of you. And the reason we chose these particular centers is because of the information we gathered with our LMI data, and then also our validation of employers in our focus groups, modified PCALs, and Chancellor Advisory Councils. We also have multiple renovations going on, and again, you can see that these are where the jobs really are. These aren't things that we're hoping for, wishing for. When solar technology came out, wind technology came out, we all sort of scrambled to create solar and wind programs, and then we all realized, you know what, the core skills are still, if you're making stuff for wind and solar, it's schematics and blueprint reading and technical math and motors and PLCs and basic electricity. If you're installing it, you're going to have to climb on a wind tower, but some of the basic competencies are still the same. And the bottom line is this is a change in the way we do things at Lone Star. It's not a project. It's not an initiative. It's a culture change, and we're very excited about that. Another item that we wanted to mention, and we'll try to get through this pretty quickly, is about job placement. The cool thing that we found out for our students about using this labor market intelligence is that we're trying to get students to figure out a major, and students don't know. They don't know what these jobs are. They don't know what a petroleum data tech is. They don't know what a process tech is. And we are sharing information. We've created job developers who work with employers, and they know the corporate culture, and they are involved in the whole process with us so that they know what the jobs are, and they know who the employers are. We get the list from Burn and Glass data. And we're using that in a bigger way to redesign career services and job placement at Lone Star College. And Kelly, I think you're going to take it from here.
Yep, just the last few things here. We're really excited on the latest work we're doing here, which, as Linda mentioned, is getting this type of data in the hands of students to make better decisions. And I believe we're, maybe a couple weeks short of our formal launch of a new system that will work with students basically from the point of prospective student all the way through alum on assisting them with utilizing this type of data about jobs to make those decisions. The great thing about it is that we were also able to pull in the actual programs, degrees, certificates that Lone Star offers and create our own crosswalk to jobs so that, again, looking at this from a prospective student standpoint, they would have the opportunity to understand that if I was going forward with this certificate, these are the types of jobs I'll be skilled for. Here's who's hiring for those jobs. Here are the skills that I need to be aware of, so on and so forth. And it also allows us to, I think I mentioned skills here, but just as a quick caption to show that each individual type of job, we can include that specific skill information, everything from the standard specialized skills that you would see all the way down to those foundation and baseline skills that Linda has talked so much about, the employers really being interested in. And then lastly, one of the really great pieces within this particular tool is our ability to look at career ladders. And this is a portion of our tool where we've actually been able to utilize not only our job data, but also our ability to analyze resumes and the career transitions of people in these types of jobs to show students steps up or steps up to a certain job versus stepping into a new position once you get to that dream job. So a ton of information that's available, and we're definitely interested in seeing how this all turns out and how we can make a difference for these students.
Okay, thank you to both of my amazing presenters today, and the story is really an incredibly important and very exciting one. I want to open it up now to those who were on the webinar for questions. I'm going to start with one that we've received and ask for those of you who have questions to please send them in, and Caitlin will take it from here. But I was wondering if we could start with a question that student success and achieving the dream at the Lone Star system is driven by the Student Services Department. How did workforce education get involved in the work with achieving the dream and in the work to be improving student outcomes in general?
This is Linda. I suppose that I need to answer that one. It's interesting.
Indeed.
In the Achieving the Dream work, a lot of the foundational work here at Lone Star has needed to be around determining what the gatekeeper classes are, Dev Ed, developmental studies, and how to improve advising and instruction and completion of those programs. But it always led to what are the students' real goals. And when you look at that, more than half of our students' real goal is to get a job now, and the fact that a high percentage of our students are working while they go to community college and need a decent job now, it kept going back to workforce education. And it's been really fun to see that student success is whatever the student's goal is and helping them get there. And we all know that. We've just had a hard time putting a metric to it. And the neat thing about using LMI data is that it's helping us with career advising and helping students choose a major. It's helping us decide which programs we should offer at the community college to be sure it's a program with a job at the end. It's helping us help the student know what other kinds of skills they need in addition to their certificate or degree from Lone Star in terms of the behavioral skills and even the drug and alcohol testing and the background testing. And so all these things together are helping us with the Achieving the Dream project.
Great. Thank you. Caitlin, do we have other questions?
Yes. There's one question. Given your approach, could you discuss how it attributed to students' academic performance and completion? Or is there a report or resource available that outlines this connection?
The data we have on graduates and completers showing the increase in the numbers of certificates and associate's degrees, both those that are Associate of Applied Science and those that are Associate of Arts, show us that student completion has been improved. And there are other factors, of course, including tutoring and changes and major modifications in advising and registration and a required orientation and required student success course and other things that we're doing at Lone Star. As far as a comprehensive report, we have 2 leaders out of that report to our Executive Vice Chancellor that probably would be able to provide something like that through our Lisa and Caitlin and the Achieving the Dream organization.
Sure. And how do you have conversations with faculty who may be teaching in programs with low labor market demand?
Well, you know, I was one of those faculty. I left an oil and gas company a long time ago and ended up at the community college the next week teaching as an adjunct at night. And it helps a little bit and I believe that administrators should teach every so often so you don't get too far from the classroom. That being said, there are programs that are low demand that are important, boutique programs, we refer to them as. Things like our live entertainment technology, the large churches and conference centers in the area need those folks. They don't need hundreds of them, they need them. So we still offer them. There has to be a need. We have to be able to place our students, again, as long as they can pass the drug and alcohol test. We have to be able to place our students in jobs and give them an opportunity for employment. There are also programs like nursing that are very expensive. You can only have 10 students in a class per instructor, but we're still certainly going to offer nursing always. And those are decisions that we incorporate into a business plan. So once we determine the need and the employers for the boutique programs, the employers need to be relatively close and in our service area. For the large programs, they might not be. We have a company, National All of Arco, with over 70 locations just in the greater Houston area. A student might go work in any of those locations. But we do put together a very comprehensive business plan, and it includes a 5-year projection of everything: marketing, faculty, equipment needs, and then the faculty can't argue with that. And our faculty have been fabulous in updating their own skills, pursuing. All of our welding and machining faculty over the last year have pursued AWS or NIM certification, and they're senior faculty that have been around for a while. But they've seen the data, they've heard the employers, and they're part of Workforce Council. That we have 36 faculty out of the 45 members. So faculty are engaged all through the process.
And do you have conversations with other colleges or universities in the service area to ensure workforce needs are met without duplication?
Yes, we do. And the Lee College-led Community College Petrochem initiative is one. We have another through our Houston Airport system with 2 of our sister community colleges. In many job areas today, there is no competition. All of us need to offer welding. All of us need to offer machining. All of us need to offer nursing and paramedic. And probably half of the programs we offer, at least I don't have an exact figure, but many of the programs we offer, we all need to offer. There is no competition. In those boutique programs, we've not run into a competitive feel for those because they're small, low numbers, even things like dental hygiene. We really aren't producing enough students today for dental hygiene and for the needs in dentist offices, and trying to figure out a way to fund the expansion of that program. But yes, we talk to each other and work with each other, but many of the large employers, all of the large employers, need all of us to do this together. It shouldn't be competitive.
And one last question. How many graduates are actually getting employed, and where are you getting the employment data from?
Well, that's the question of the day, isn't it? So now we are all having to track student job placement. And 2 years ago, I asked the previous chancellor if that could report to our office. If we were responsible for creating the program, we also wanted to make sure that we knew if students were getting jobs. So at our campuses, we still have career services, of course, and that is led by our vice presidents of student services. But our office has been charged with figuring that out. And there are very few tools out there to help us. We've been solely dependent on Texas Workforce Commission data because that's the only quantifiable data. And we're trying to not use too much anecdotal information by phone calling students and emailing them and that sort of thing, because statistically speaking, it's not very valid. We are engaging another vendor, and that contract was just finalized yesterday, actually, that is partnering with us and complements Burning Glass, and because there are very few out there. So we're just getting ready to launch something new and try to help do something different than student surveys by phone and by email.
Linda and Kelly, thank you very much for an absolutely terrific webinar. Linda heads the Associate Vice Chancellor for Workforce Education and Corporate Partnerships of Lone Star College System, and Kelly Bailey, Director of Partnerships and Alliances, Education and Career Advancement Services at Burning Glass Technologies. A quick note that we've included our presenters' contact information in the slides, and the slides will be available afterwards and will be sent out to everyone registered for this webinar in a follow-up email, and the webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. And I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin now to do a quick poll.
Yes. I just launched the poll, so on your screen you should see 5 questions in which you need to answer with all that you agree with. First is, this call was useful and informative. I enjoyed the webinar format. This webinar gave me new ideas. There was enough time for questions and discussion, and this call did not meet my expectations. So I'll give you a minute to answer. Okay, thank you.
Our next webinar is going to be Wednesday, April 15th. We hope you'll be able to join us then. And again, thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you to all of you for joining us today.